Okay, hey everybody. Thanks for hopping on our team training and inspiration call that we're starting to have twice a month. I'm excited to see all of your faces, and I love chatting with you guys and getting your perspectives and just hearing kind of what's going on in your businesses, what your wins are, what your struggles might be, and talking through all of that. So I'm really excited for another great chat tonight. And for our leader spotlight of tonight, we're going to have Marissa sharing, and I'm so excited for you to hear from her because I feel like she is someone who I just admire and respect so much. And she's such a self-starter and just an innate leader and a go-getter. And I am so proud of her because she just earned her spot on Leaders Retreat, Leaders Retreat Cruise. And one of the main things I wanted her to talk about was what she feels like has been working in her business lately. Because as we all know, a lot of us here have been here for a really long time, right? And so sometimes what's working in one season isn't necessarily the same thing that's working in a different season, right? But just wanted her to share a little bit about what's working for her right now and how she feels earning Leaders Retreat, which is absolutely huge. So take it away, Marissa.
Okay. So I wrote your questions down and tried to answer them a little bit. So I might be reading a bit here.
Totally fine.
But yeah, when I earned that, it was not something that I was specifically working towards or had any idea of. Well, I had like a vague idea that I could probably maybe. And then I just kind of do exactly what I do every day, and I just keep doing it. So anyways, yeah, I'm really proud that I earned it. Like it's
Absolutely,
and
you should
amazed.
be. And for anyone, so Marissa's in Canada, and there was a separate Canada like leadership, I forgot what it was called, celebration or sale.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
there was another contest going on, and she was on the leaderboard for that, and she was like absolutely killing it. And that contest closed, but our Leaders Retreat cruise contest was still going. So she basically was like sprinting a lot longer than we think she was. Like we didn't have the same contest in the US, and she had it going in Canada. So anyway, it was very cool because she seamlessly transitioned like out of one into the next and just like rocked it. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, I don't even know how I did on how it went with the celebration one. I was confused because I was like mixing them both up. So I really had no idea where I was on anything. But for what I do that's worked for me is just basically I'm very consistent in posting like every day. I'm a person who goes by like schedule, so I can get into a schedule, it's just hard for me to change it. So I just keep doing the same thing every single day. And then checking in with I try to make a point of checking in with people like always. I have a lot to learn there too, because I could make it less stressful and easier on myself if I actually went into my back office and like made lists and all that. But basically I go from memory and scroll down my messages and be like, oh, that person. And I will write their names down in my agenda. But yeah, there is times when I've forgotten someone, or like it's been way too long since I touched base with them and stuff like that. But I try to be like as good as I can without actually being organized.
I
But
love that,
yeah,
by the way, because I think many people think they have to be perfectly organized and have all the systems in order to be successful. And it is not true. It's not true. You can be every personality type, every work style. You can be completely disorganized or have your own system that you made up, right? And that can totally work for you too. So thank you for including that. I think that's great.
yeah, and also yeah, just potentials and stuff like that. Then I try to make a point of writing down the list. Like I kind of have a list that I use for like the month, and people that I'll try to remember to touch base with. Like if I've given them samples, then I reach back out to them to see if they like them or whatever, things like that. And yeah, that's kind of how I do what I'm doing.
I have a follow-up question about your monthly list. So is that something that you like revive each month, or do you like revisit that list? Are those people that you like have like your eyes on that month to like keep following up with, engage with? Like how does that list is intriguing me. Tell
So
me more about this.
So I will write down their names. Like, so for instance, with the sampling thing, I sent out a bunch of samples and then so I have all their names. So if they didn't end up, um, I keep in contact with all of them somehow, even if it's not like, first I follow up, like, did you like your samples and how did that go for you and whatever? And did you join in the event? And if people were like, oh, I didn't even get them yet. And so then I kind of, I'm like, I touch base this month and I'm like, well, we have another event coming. Do you want to go to that? Blah, blah, blah. So it is kind of like a running list, but there is people that I'll still think of and be like, oh yeah, I haven't like chatted with them for a long time. But it's kind of, I get a sense of how interested they are, or um, whether or not they're open to it, kind of thing. Like they want me to educate them or they need more information. You can kind of get a sense of that. And a lot of people reach out, like a lot of times at the end of the month, someone will come that I never expected and reach out. And that's because of posting, I think. That's because of just being like, yeah, posting. I don't
Absolutely.
know.
You are so consistent. Like if you want a model of consistency, Marissa has just rocked it lately in the consistency department. I mean, we all don't know what everybody does behind the scenes, but I love her list and I love that you keep inviting them to things. And even if they missed an event, you're inviting them to the next thing. Like that is so great, that repeated exposure and just revisiting and kind of taking the temperature of where they're at. Like, are they still interested in education? Do they still need more exposure? Like what do we need to move them to the next step? Like the next baby step. Genevieve always talks about that. She's like, don't try to like make the sale today. Like just get them to the next yes. Like what is the next yes? And that is such a good example of that. And I also find like when you're consistent, when we're all consistent, when we're consistent and following up and doing the things and in our activity, people come, right? And that's
Mhm.
totally an example of that. Like you're like, I'm doing the things on a regular basis and they're coming. Um,
Yeah. And that being said, like the people that I touched base with, like no, like I'm feeling all discouraged today because I reached out to a whole bunch of people and about this sampling event that's coming up, and would you like to go to this one, or would you like a sample? And nobody answered, so I'm like, oh.
which totally happens, right? Like, thank you for being vulnerable about that because that happens to everybody, right? But like sometimes we just do a lot of work and you're like, well, that time didn't work so great. I was talking to
Yeah,
Becca today about how this time around I actually ended up with a lot of people in the sampling group. And I told her, I was like, that doesn't always happen for me. Even if I'm the one hosting the event, I'm like, man, I am just flopping like this. Like I'm putting on the event and I'm trying and they're not coming. But I was I was like, I'm gonna toot my own horn for a minute because I sent out a ton of sample message and helped my level ones send out sample messages, and all of a sudden I'm like, this one they're actually coming to. I'm all excited. So I feel you on that because sometimes it's like, darn it. But the key is always like to keep going, right? And you never know when those people are going to come around and maybe they're busy for summer or whatever. Did you have anything else to share about what's working for you right now? Or I was going to ask you my next question.
yeah, that's kind of all I had for that.
Awesome.
Engaging on people's like actual their own personal posts regularly too. I try to do that whenever I see them. I don't have any schedule for that either.
Do you find that you're engaging more on the people on that monthly list that you're kind of the people that you're talking to? Do you engage with those people? You
I
more?
think so, but I think that's just because Facebook shows you more of their stuff because you've been talking with them and stuff like that. I think then it happens easier, but
Right. Well, that's a good sign, right? Like that's good like verification that what we do works. Like if you keep talking
mhm.
to people, then they keep seeing your stuff. Hopefully, if you're seeing their stuff, you would hope that. So kind of the last thing I wanted you to share was just sort of what you might be learning right now or anything you're doing to improve in any area of your business, your skills or your leadership or your communication or whatever. What are you learning right now at this phase in your business that you could share with everybody else?
Like I don't know that I have something that's that's going to be eye-opening or anything, but I have been trying to watch more training, because I know that every time I do learn something, whether it's like a tip or a trick to Like, for instance, I mentioned it to Amanda today, I think, in a message, was just like sending out samples right when someone joins, sending out samples of like Hydrate or Active right away with like a handwritten note, and just so that they have like that something personal in the mail, and that you're thinking of them even before they've like gotten their stuff yet. So I haven't done it, but it's something that I'm like, oh, I should. That's something that I could easily do.
Yeah, you know
Um,
what? That's really good and something I've been meaning to do also. I was like, who used to do that? My
and
Erica, somebody did it. Like they sent out samples to people who joined. Anyway, sorry, continue. I cut you off, but I was like,
yeah, well, no, that's okay. Like, and then I also would love to learn how to better motivate people to want to share. Like I had someone tonight who's like kind of shared, and she had like 6 people be curious about it, but I've not been able to help her with any of them. Like, she kind of sometimes answers, sometimes doesn't. But then today, her husband saw how much the products costed, and she like right away canceled her subscription. And I'm like, oh, I can help you, but I don't know. Like, that's something that I'm like, oh, another thing.
absolutely. And that's something that I think all of us, those conversations can be difficult, and kind of learning the right verbiage to explore if that's something they're willing to learn how to do, is like, are you open to me showing you how to earn enough money to cover the cost of your products? Like, or whatever that looks like in your own
Yeah.
verbiage, right? Like that conversation can be one that's like, it can feel uncomfortable because you're like, okay, I need to say the right thing. Like, I don't want to turn them off to this, but also we know how much it can help them, right? And we know that clearly financial struggles are an issue for lots of people, right? But what a good opportunity to like practice.
Yeah. Like, I know well, the
Yeah.
thing is, like, I know she loves the products, which and
Mhm.
she's feeling so good. So, and then, yeah, so I'm just trying to be, like, understanding and being, and I know she's, like, considering sharing, but she never really lets me know her thoughts on anything. So then I don't really know. And I'm like, how do I support you best?
Right. Well, that's a good question, right? I want to support you. Like, how can I best support you? Because I haven't.
Yeah, that's
I
actually how I
feel
ended. That's how I
good.
ended
Oh,
the
so
conversation.
good. That is awesome. I think I really appreciate your openness about that, because I think sharing conversations and dealing with people who either don't respond, aren't very responsive, or they're kind of closed off, or they sort of have objections, like that dance can be touchy sometimes. And it's like, okay, I got to think of like the right verbiage or the right cadence of contact, or maybe a different contact method is better for her if she's like not responding or whatever, right?
Mhm.
Um, but that's exciting. She had 6 people.
Yeah, I thought it was really exciting too, but
She's like,
nothing.
yeah, like,
Yeah,
how
nothing
about we
so
get
far.
these people ordering so we can cover the cost of your products?
Yeah, that's what I was like. I told her we just need 3 of those 6 people to like start their health journeys, and you would be paid more.
Yeah. Oh man, I'll have to like follow up with you about that later. I'm very curious about that. Well, thank you so much for just kind of giving us a little insight into what's working for you. And I'm so proud of you. Like, I'm so proud of you. Marissa is a gold ambassador, by the way, everybody. And to earn Leaders Retreat is an enormous accomplishment. And so please like be so proud of yourself and see that like the consistency that you're putting forth is like totally worth it. Yeah, all the clapping and jazz hands for everybody, round of applause, because it's huge. And I think that sometimes we can get discouraged or think that our consistency might not matter, or we might take a day off because we're feeling like we're not into it, or we might not invite to the event, or we might not attend the training because things get in the way or whatever. Says the person who skipped book club tonight. It happens sometimes. But your business is a perfect example of consistency compounding over time, right? And when that consistency really adds up, and you've been engaging with and building those relationships, and you've got that pool of potentials right there that you've been inviting to and sending samples and, keeping on high alert along with the consistency of posting and all that, that is when that consistency compounds and it all comes to fruition. So I just want to just let you know how proud of you I am and how excited I am for you to have earned this. And we've already talked about like you earning the 1250 credits too, which is like So doable for you guys. She's going to earn her guest ticket, and her and her husband are going to cruise to the Caribbean. It's going to be
Yeah, I
great.
don't know.
Everybody
We'll
throw
see.
those vibes her way. It's going to be amazing. And we're all running together, right? You're not by yourself. Like we're all in this together. So it's so great. Well, thank you so much, Marissa. I really appreciate that. And it's super late there, by the way. Is it 10:30, 10:50? Okay. You
Yeah.
can go to bed if you want. I was like, you can get
No,
off.
it's
You
okay.
need to go to bed.
No, I'm like, that's why half my thing was like, what can you guys teach me? How about you
Yeah.
teach me?
Yeah. Well, what we're going to go into very next, I was listening to this gal. I just found her podcast. Oh, for goodness sakes, what is the name of her podcast? This is so silly. I should have had it up ready for you. The Creator Project. I just found this gal. Her name's Jade Beeson. She has an accent. I don't know where she's from, London or something. She might be British, but which is fun to listen to anyway. But a lot of her content is for like influencers. So some of it's not applicable to our businesses directly, you know, it's like how to pitch yourself to get brand partnerships and like that kind of thing. But she has a lot of tips for engaging, tips for posting, tips for stories, just tips for content, all kinds of things, really. But I happened to listen to her podcast about Instagram and Facebook stories and why some might be more effective than others, and like the cadence of your stories, and why putting some things might be great and not other things, and whatever. And she shared this story of, just to illustrate an example. She's like, imagine you are not putting a lot of pressure on yourself, but striving for consistency in your stories, to show up every day, to post something in your stories every day. And you get to the end of the night and you're like, oh, I gotta put something in my stories today. I don't know what to put in my stories today. So you go find like a meme or something and you share it into your stories. Okay, check. I did something in my stories, right? Or even like a Plexus product graphic or something, right? And it's in your stories. Great. You're gonna take a picture of your ProBio 5 and you did, right? Like just kind of like an afterthought type of thing. And then maybe that happens to you for a few days. And you're like, okay, well, at least I'm in my stories every day, right? Like it might be kind of like halvesies, but at least I'm there. I'm showing up. I've got content in my stories. Well, on the flip side of that, if you are engaging with potentials, if we're out there expanding our networks and adding new friends and followers, well, the first night they're like, oh, okay, I guess she does Plexus, or whatever. They see a quote or a meme or whatever is in our stories. Okay, then the next night it's like, oh, okay, there's this other like shared thing. Okay. And then the third night they're like, they watch your story because you're a new follower, right? And they're like, oh, okay. So turns out this person is not that interesting, right? Like think of it from the audience perspective, is like, by like the third or fourth day of that, not that any of us are doing that, but this was the illustrated example she was giving, was like, this person might just straight up unfollow us. So they're like, brand new follow, I'm excited about your content, like it's showing up more often because it's brand new, you're engaging, new friend, new follower. And they happen to catch us in a moment when we're like feeling uninspired, maybe really busy, maybe kind of half-assing some content, you know, but we're still, you know, expanding our networks to kind of check all those boxes. But from the reverse perspective, they're getting something that's not our best, right? And she was sort of illustrating that people might not, or probably will not, unfriend or unfollow you if you like skip a day, you know, but they might if it's a few days of kind of lame content. Is basically what she was saying. It was like, think about it. Like if they're just kind of like checking in and they're like, this isn't so great, but whatever. And then the next day it's like, this isn't so great, but whatever. And by the third day, you're like, why am I following this person? You know? And so she was saying, take some time to be thoughtful. And then she kind of illustrated like the cadence and stuff, which I'll talk about what she said in a minute. Like it's worth it to maybe take a step back to be more thoughtful than it is to like throw something up to just say I like was in my stories. Which I know I have totally done. I've been like, this quote's kind of funny. It's the end of the night and I have nothing in my story. So I'm just going to share this post, and that's already exists out on the internet somewhere else. right? It's not new content. It's not a novel idea. It's repurposed. They might have seen it before. So I know I've done that before. And so she was kind of like, let me just warn you to not do that, especially night after night. Because that's how you get unfollowed, essentially, right? She's like, if you skip a day, they're not going to know that you skipped a day of your stories. But they probably will notice if the content is lame. So she kind of illustrated that. But it was good to have someone revisit the idea that your stories are your behind the scenes content, because what lives out there in Facebook and Instagram are curated reels and pretty filtered photos and maybe longer captions and stories and, you know, really heartfelt, passionate content, which is great. It's a lot more thoughtful and a lot more purposeful because it remains on your feed, right? But the content in your stories is intentionally supposed to be messy. It's intentionally supposed to be the human side of your business, the human side of your account. It's meant to be the non-curated behind the scenes stuff. And if we are putting content in there that feels overly curated, it's generally not as received as well. Like the whole point of your stories is something that we know is going to go away in 24 hours. It's meant to be kind of like off the cuff, chatting about your day. I'm walking somewhere, I'm showing my face, they're hearing my voice. That type of thing that actually gets people to watch longer and not click through them. Whereas when we put up graphics and things, which I totally do, right? Like when we put up words and graphics and all the things, people might check out like the first 1 or 2 slides of that. But if our photo descriptions are 3, 4, 5, 6 slides long, like good luck getting people to watch 6 slides of like product descriptions, which I am like 1,000% guilty of. And so I was kind of thinking about how to adapt this to our business. And I guess myself, I was thinking, okay, if I'm going to share something about Plexus that's either someone's story or a product highlight or something, she was saying if it takes more than like 2 or 3 slides, it's too long. Like that's a post, basically. Like that's feed content. That's not story content. And it's so much better if instead of taking a picture and doing the like, this is what ProBio 5 does. This is the da-da-da. Like I do that. I've done that a lot, right? You highlight products or whatever. She's like, just hold up the product and say the sentence. And then just hold up the next product and say the sentence and add captions, you know, have the camera showing yourself saying it. Or if you really don't want to show your face in that moment, like even using your voice and captions with a video of you hold like your hand holding the thing, like that would perform better than a static image with text on it. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say? And so I thought that was a really good tip. So she's like, people will only click through so many static images before they swipe and start watching someone else's story, because the human movement is what's capturing the attention in the stories. And so it's the showing your face, it's the hearing your voice, because a lot of times people aren't hearing your voice on social media, on our voices. It's rare, right? Sometimes we're in our stories, sometimes we use our own voice and audio in a reel or a video, but it's definitely not the norm. It's not something we're doing all the time. But we forget that people who are seeing our content online are not hearing our voice and seeing our face all the time. And their feed is like full of other people's content, and their stories are full of other people's stories. So what's going to get them to want to watch ours? It's usually a friendly face, a voice, captions that are moving, right? It's basically like a video moving caption, right? It's moving content. It's not a static image. Captioned audio will perform better. And so that was a good tip about how to.
I almost, so like listening to this, I'm like, yeah. But then I think about the handful of of like Instagram people that I follow like religiously, like I love their content. I've never seen their face ever. And I've never heard their voice ever. It's only ever static stuff. And it's like factoids or whatever. And I'm like all about it. I love it so much. I'm totally into it. It's graphs or short, text that is not like our giant graphics that have like so many words that there's no way you could read them. But like, I'm like, yeah. But then I think who do I religiously follow? And I like eat up their content. It's none of those things. So I'm a little bit like, oh, I feel conflicted.
Yeah, and
Honestly,
maybe your
because
network would respond well to that. Like maybe you're feeling like
yeah,
my people would respond well to that type of content. And you could do a test too, right? Like see what performs well, I guess. And like you could look at your analytics and see like
I mean, if you like think of your big name people that you follow, like what does their content look like? Not like someone say like me who only has, I don't even know how many followers I have on Instagram. Less than 2,000 followers for sure. Like, okay, someone like me is maybe different than someone who has like 13,500 followers, which I don't necessarily want to be that person. But what is the differentiator? Is that better? I don't know. This stuff conflicts me all the time. I'm like,
yeah. Well, and
I feel like I'm
looking
getting
at,
conflicted information.
yeah, I mean, you could look at what you enjoy looking at. And this is specifically about stories, right? So it's not like all their feed content. This is more like to get your target market to pause and listen to your story and to not swipe through it. So whatever that might be for your market, it might be a mix of the two. Or they might really like the graphs and the graphics and things like that and explanations, and you know, maybe they really respond to that. I thought that it was nice that she kind of not introduced, that's the wrong word, included the 80-20, you know, rule of like, if you're going to share something about Plexus, like your personal content should far outweigh your Plexus content, or else your stories just become a Plexus infomercial, right? Just like your feed would, you know? So I thought that was good to include, because I think I know I've gotten into the rhythm a couple times. I've been like, I need to put something in my stories, and like I guess I'll have it be a Plexus thing, right? Like end of the day, and I'm like, wait, what I should have done is like spoken to the camera or something, like just be a person if I really wanted to show up. Or it's okay to skip a day. Like my audience will not unfriend me and unfollowing me for skipping a day of my stories. I mean, it might not move my business forward, right? Inconsistency is not the goal. It was more like, what's better, half-assed content or none? It was like maybe none for a second in your stories, like not your feed, you know? But let's see, what else do I have written down? Just how she's like, for a season there, which I agree, for a season there, like stories had to be so pretty, you know? Like we wanted all the stories to be the prettiest stories. And she was like, they don't need to be the prettiest stories. Like you talking with captions is gonna probably perform better than a static pretty image, depending on, you know, maybe depending on your market or whatever, or what the information is that you're trying to give. But she's like, they don't need to be pretty, and people might not want them to be pretty, because then it kind of looks like an ad. Right? And she's like, no one is like, yes, please advertise more to me. Like, no, but that's not like what the world in general is doing. So she was just encouraging people to show their face more, hear their voice more, show their personality more, be messy a little bit more, and be okay with it. Because we're getting such curated content everywhere else. And just kind of like the afterthought content isn't as good as we think it performs, and it actually might fuel an unfollow and unfriend situation. And just kind of reiterating the fact that your feed content is what helps you grow, right? If you're on Instagram, it's, you know, it's your hashtags, and when you follow people, they're looking at your grid. Like the feed content is what's going to help you grow. Same with Facebook. If you friend somebody, they're going to come see your feed content, but your stories are what helps you connect with your audience. Your stories aren't really helping you grow that audience. They're just making that connection closer and stronger, making that bond stronger. So I know that I have had seasons where I'm like so horrible in my stories, and they're such an afterthought, and I know right now I don't feel like that in this season. Like I'm intentionally trying to get a little bit better about my feed content and my stories. But I have a long way to go. So I just sort of wanted to impart that because I just listened to that the other day and I was like, this is good to revisit. Like this is good content to talk about again. But does anyone have any other comments about that? How are you feeling about that? Anything you want to work on? Or anything you do that you love? Or any tips?
I feel like it's so easy to get like paralyzed by all of like, I don't know, like making reels, talking on your story, just all the things, it's like a lot to take in. And I have definitely caught myself just being like, I'm just going to check out of this area. And I know that like we should put thought into our content, but I do feel like showing up is better than not showing up at all. So I'm just putting that out there for everybody. Like if you're feeling paralyzed, like I had like totally stepped back from Instagram for like a long time because I like did not have the bandwidth to look for inspiration to make like the most catchy reel ever. Like, you know what? I'm just going to start again and they're going to be the most basic, easy things ever. And showing up is better than not showing up. And I'm already
You are all
followers.
over my feed now.
Yes, Becca's reels. Oh my gosh, you guys. They're
I'm like, oh,
fantastic.
there's Becca again. Look at her
Go
go.
find Becca on Instagram. She has committed to making a reel every day or posting a reel every day. And they're simple and wonderful, like simple in the best way. And I love it. I love it so much. Anyway, she's killing it.
I mean, I don't know about killing it, but just keeping it basic. Like I am literally spending like less than 5 minutes doing it. And I just look for videos of my kid and me, like since she was little, which there's millions of them on my phone. So that works out well. But yeah, just saying like you want to get better, but also don't get like so paralyzed by all of the I need to be like her, or I need to do this, or I need to do that, or I don't know, have the perfect bio and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's so much out there to learn that it can get overwhelming. I find like myself. So that's why I'm like super basic. Every once in a while I might do a reel, but it's nothing fancy. And I don't know, it's like you almost need training how to make a reel simply and easily. So if Becca wants to train people. So I feel like I don't really know.
And it's like, they're like, I don't know, like the trendy audio. Oh, now you need something in your caption. Oh, now you need to do carousel posts. And, like it just becomes like too much to try to keep up with. So showing up is better than not showing up.
Totally.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that too, especially for feed content. Like the feed content is what gets pushed out to other audiences on Instagram, at least. And that's what people see when you friend them on Facebook. It's like your feed content, it's like just being present and consistent is huge. I mean, most people are passive scrollers on social media. So to even have someone who's consistently posting on a daily basis sets you apart already. So that like not overthinking it and kind of doing what Becca has done, just put something out there, which is awesome. I think they're great, fantastic. I think is so good. It's so good to just not overthink it and dive in. And it's okay if you don't have like the world's best content. I mean, I don't think any of us have the world's best content. You know what I mean? Like all of us are doing a great job with what we have, and all are successful. And I think that's really good. And I think kind of one of the
one of my posts recently was like very well received. And that was like, see all those people telling me to make a million reels and doing the carousel posts and stuff. And it was one single picture with like a thought-provoking caption. Like it doesn't have to be this formula that Joe Schmo over here, who's some kind of expert, like Becca is saying. That was just really encouraging to me. That was like, see, if if it's something that I would like to put out there, I get to choose that. It's my own page. I don't have to do whatever so-and-so expert over here who's charging $30 a month for their trainings and all of these things is telling me to do. I wanted to make a post about it because it was important to me. And obviously it was important to other people too, or whatever. Like that was, Becca, I'm so glad you said that, because it is very encouraging to know, like, you can do what feels good to you or what feels like a wise choice. It doesn't have to be some expert thing and some kind of formula to make it the best ever,
Definitely. Isn't that a huge weight off too? To be like, hey, your social media can be whatever you want it to be. It can be whatever you want it to be. Like, it doesn't have to look like anybody else's. And it's better if it doesn't.
And I think we forget too, like, we're trying to attract people like us, right? Like, we don't want to attract everybody. And I was telling Allie, like, I was totally overthinking like the kind of content I want to put out there. Like, what will people think of this? Like, am I going to be looked at as like this toxic positivity mother or whatever? And I'm like, you know what? I don't really care. I don't really care. If it's not for somebody, that's okay. They're not my people. Yeah.
I mean, this is.
I need to say one thing before I go, because I have to leave right away. I hear my baby crying.
Oh yeah.
But this has been so great. This has been good training. Becca, all of your content has been great. Every time you share something, I'm like, oh, I want to share this as well. Right? Yeah.
Yes. I've got all hers saved.
Me too.
Thank you guys. That's very encouraging to hear.
But if people could actually share like the people that they follow on whatever platform and their favorite people, that would be a great post. I would love to know those people and follow them as well. And now I need to leave. So thank you so much for this training.
You're welcome.
Bye, guys.
You know what? That's a really good exercise. I feel like is even not even Plexus people, just like people in general whose content you enjoy seeing and you revisit it and you enjoy consuming it, right? I mean, we could share whatever, we can do this in the chat or anything. But like, hey, this person, like their formula of whatever they're doing is great. This might be somebody to just watch and see, like, I really like this. Is this something that my audience would really like? Is this someone worth recommending, like in our chat, that everybody kind of check out? Because like what they're doing is cool and it feels natural and it feels, transparent and normal and all that stuff. Or like really interesting. Is the way that they're sharing it something that would be good for everybody to kind of like take notes from? Because there are so many accounts online. There are so many accounts. And some people have like virtual assistants creating all their content for them, and and I don't do any of you. I do not. So I don't have time for that. But it's possible to grow your business and grow your following and grow your network and strengthen relationships and all of that in a way that feels easy. But there's some tweaks, right? There's tweaks here and there that you can do to make life simpler or to make something more effective. And so I thought kind of that note about, I think what stuck out to me was when she was like, if you're talking about your business and it's a static image that maybe it's as pretty as can be, and it's got some kind of text on it or whatever, and they're like, okay, great, she's got this product that she loves or whatever. And the next slide is like something else about it, or you're pointing out something else. And then like the third slide is you're pointing out another thing. And she's like, if it has more slides, forget it. I am swiping. Like, she's like, I'm not here to watch a PowerPoint about, and I was like, that is so, I do that all the time. I was like, oh my gosh, I totally do that, and so to sort of avoid that and remember that sharing some stuff, like sharing stuff into our stories, that's content that exists somewhere on Instagram or Facebook, is okay within reason. If it's most of your content or your only content for the day, like rethink that. Was sort of the message there, is like prioritize novel content that is your user generated content. And if it can have a human element to it, that's better, was sort of like the vibe of the call. But yeah, I agree, Erica. Look at the content you love and you're consuming, that you enjoy consuming and find interesting. If that's what your target market would enjoy, then do more of that. And you can also see the analytics of that, you know, like, okay, the other day I posted for a week straight, I put this type of thing in my stories. Did the viewership drop off after that? Did it stay the same, you know? So like, how did that perform? That type of thing would be really good analytic to even look at and just kind of test out. That can be done with posts and stuff too, but there's so many things that go into feed posts, like time of day and day of the week. And is it, you know, is it carousel? Is it static? Is it a reel? Is it, you know, there's so many different variables there, but yeah, I think it's a good kind of thing to reflect of like what you're putting out there, because some people are just serial story watchers and they don't actually scroll their feed that much at all. So that could be the only content that they see of you whatsoever. And a lot of stories, you're being pushed to the front of the line according to when you upload the content. So it may not fit in with the typical algorithm. So you may, the more intervals you can have uploading content, the more likely you are to show up at the front of their story feed. If that makes sense, it doesn't follow the typical algorithm of like them seeing more of your content when you engage with them more. It feels a little more random. So, yeah, that was kind of the last thing I had to talk about tonight, but Marissa has something to say. Yes.
I was going to ask one question from Becca, because she's now my story or reel expert. When you like, I know there's certain audios or where people take what like someone's speaking and they like do a reel according to it. Where do people find those? Or where do you search that, or do you just like know things?
I will just like look at some reels like from people, and sometimes it'll say like trending audio.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just save them.
Okay.
There is somebody I follow that posts really good, like simple reel ideas with trending audios, and I'll put like her handle. Okay. But that's.
Yeah, because I would like to try it, learn more about reels, but I just am like, I make a reel, blah, blah, put things together.
I literally just like take a video and just direct them to the caption.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't do like fancy, like this text ends and then this one starts and all of that.
I tried that and it just messes up. It just is like,
it takes a really long time and I'm just not.
You watch it later and you're like, oh, that wasn't how I did it, but oh well.
That's the worst.
Oh my gosh. I feel like that happens to everybody. You're like, dang it, I've spent so long on this and now it looks like trash. You're like, ugh.
Well, that happened to me like a few
That is why I will save it to drafts like a few times to make sure that I at least like have it somewhere. And then when I play it back within the draft, like when you reopen your app and play it back within the draft, if it's messed up then it will be messed up. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So if you save it once first before you post it and check it out, make sure it works, then finish up, you know, anything you need to edit on it, any hashtags, whatever you want to do, then you can be like fairly confident that it will work. But if it's messed up in the draft, it will definitely be messed up. I learned that the hard way a few times.
Totally. And I posted reels to Facebook before. Don't do that. They like live somewhere else. It's the craziest thing. They like will not get seen. People have to like go look at the reels section to go find the reels. So don't do that. But I mean, a lot of your content could be multi-purpose, right? You could like create a post from that and like use a static image or something to kind of repurpose that. So you're not,
Erica's that's really what I did today. I did that today.
Awesome.
And it worked great. And I was like, everybody that I know on Instagram would have already seen this video. And turns out everybody's like, cool. You know, like I just figured it wouldn't get that much viewership, but I needed to post something. But it totally was like, oh, actually, this is doing better than I thought. Yahoo.
Totally going to look up what it was.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I find that even like a long Facebook caption could be turned into like 2 or 3 pieces of Instagram content because Instagram is so media heavy, whereas Facebook is so caption heavy. I mean, even in the way that content is presented, right? On Facebook, it's caption first. On Instagram, it's media first. So it's like, even that way, maybe it's my network, but like long captions do not perform well for me on Instagram very well. But a long, thoughtful caption on Facebook does. Like people will read a story if it's a good one, you know, like they'll read the whole thing. So
Yeah, I'm gonna head out.
okay, it's so late. Sorry. Thank you for hopping on and thank you for sharing with us. We appreciate you and we're cheering you on.
Thanks. Have a nice night, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
Oh man, but yeah, so I think it'd be good to go share a couple of our people we follow, like our favorite accounts or something, that we really appreciate what they're doing, right? That might be good to take some inspiration from. Even like Becca said, like people who have great audio or something. You're like, I find really good audio from this person, or her real ideas are really great, or I like these types of posts that they share. I find this type of content something I'm interested in. So if it also speaks to your audience, like this could be someone good to follow to get ideas from. That'd be great if we could each, like, I don't know, drop whoever in the chat. That'd be great. And I mean, I am just always learning about how to market better, how to show up better, how to be more consistent, how to, you know, develop a better relationship with my audience. And I know that I'm always on a journey to improve my content. And I think that what is good content is so subjective and ever changing. So in this season, I think like when stories first came out years ago, it was like, what's a story? Why would I be in my stories? You know, and now it's like, if you're not in your stories, you're missing a portion of your market, because there's some people that are only watching stories, or that's your opportunity to build a connection, right? And so how can we do that better and find content that speaks to them better, right? And that what they would want to consume, without losing them and dropping off because we're posting a PowerPoint presentation like I do. So
No, I really want to start talking on my stories more. Like I used to do that. I don't know if you remember, like before I had a baby. I don't know.
We have a challenge of like every day this week for 15 seconds, just wake up and walk to get your coffee. Be like, good morning.
It's funny, like during this call, I'm like, why do I really not do that anymore? And I think it's because overthinking. I'm like, I look like crap like most of the time. Which is like nobody cares what I look like.
And like everybody looks like they rolled out of bed when they just rolled out of bed. Like all of the people look that way.
Yes. Oh, yes, Erica. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, just as simply as the fact that you're always videoing her, you know, it's like you don't even think to turn it around and show your own self. Same thing with me and the girls. I'm like, people don't want to see me. They want to see these adorable 3 blonde children. You know,
well,
and that's not true. I mean, it'd be nice if I connected.
My content was
not going to buy Plexus from Kinley. They're going to buy Plexus from you.
They might.
You know what I mean, though? Like, yeah.
It's funny that like my content was just so much more curated before. Like I had all the time in the world to like do my hair and makeup every day and like take all the, I don't know, good pictures. Like even my pictures when I was pregnant with Olive, I have all these like cute bump photos.
You have so many cute pictures. Yeah. Oh shoot. Oh man.
But yeah, I just like had that thought, like I need to just show up anyway.
Now the only time I show my face is when I do a live, I have found. Unless it's a still picture, like a selfie. Yeah. So this is a good reminder to show back up in like micro stories, like a micro live almost, where it shows up as a story, not as a live, with automated captions.
Yeah.
This is a good reminder.
You know who I like?
We do need to do
this. You guys would like, her name's Leslie Burris.
I'm writing it down.
Oh, put that in. Yeah.
I put it in the chat.
I'll have to.
On the gram?
Instagram, yeah. She just had her 6th or 7th baby.
Oh.
She has a pretty good podcast too. She gave birth.
She has 153,000
on Instagram.
Yeah, that's why she has so many followers.
I watched it for 3 hours. I was on my phone. I was invested.
I guess I would be too. That's a long time.
I mean, it wasn't like eyes glued to my phone, but
totally. I'm trying to see if I missed anything about that podcast that I listened to. I think that was it. But this is good, right? Good reminder. Lots of good reminders here, lots of good takeaways.
Yeah, like I think just showing up and then like what I've told myself, show up every, I've made this goal for myself, 5 reels a week. And then when I get consistent with that or like do that for a month, what can I do to take it to the next level? Or,
My thing for September is going to be lives every day.
Like in your stories? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So there are a few people that I am following from other companies that just recently, I like watched this happen. They were like, sort of like I am. And then they met with some business partner or something. And now they've been going live every day since then. They must have made some kind of goal. I like watched it happen, right? And their little thing pops up on my feed, and I'm not necessarily intrigued by the products or anything, but I was like, that is interesting. Her little thing goes boop, so and so is live every day.
Is it about
a day?
Her products every day, or is it like
no
random?
Well, and when you go live, it like pops up on the stories, like you can see who's live in that moment.
I think you get a notification about it too.
You do. It's a little rectangle, so and so is live. And sometimes she's paired with other people. So it'd be like another like friend, or like maybe a customer, maybe someone who is working their business over here, maybe somebody, I don't know. And I found that really interesting, especially when you do those paired lives. Like it's like you're both live at the same time. Those are particularly high traffic, I guess you could say, at least for part of it. Like, okay, that would be super interesting too, to maybe not every day, maybe like Becca 5 days a week or something. So I contacted some of my customers to see if maybe they would be, I was like, I want to meet up with you. I have an idea, and I'm going to see if maybe they'd be willing to go live with me in the month of September at some point. Like, hey, 5 minutes, will you do a live with me? I'm, make it a little bit like, hey, will you do this with me? Not necessarily for them. And already one had said yes. So
that's great.
We'll see what happens.
And what good practice sharing their experience, telling their story.
Yeah. And I'm kind of hoping that it encourages them to become a business builder.
Yeah. What a good idea. Genius. You're a genius.
We'll see what happens. So the month of September, because ain't nobody got time for that.
Oh, no.
Right now. Everybody's all like off doing, everybody's schedules are so weird in the summer. You can't regularly scheduled things are very difficult. So
well, awesome. I think we have a lot of really good takeaways about stories and content and things we're going to work on. I'm excited to see what we all do over the next month. End of Leaders Retreat contest. So do it. It's sprint season. Yay. I was telling Becca, a lot of people might want to get restarted heading into the school year. That's like a good reason to reach out to like get people ordered before the end of August. Some people are starting school like next week.
Some people started school like today. What the heck?
Yeah. So I'm like, that's a good way to like reach out to all your inactive, any potential that was said no or not the right time, like earlier this year or earlier in the summer or whatever. Like heading back into school year is a really good time to revisit that conversation. So all right.
Thanks, Allie.
Dropping on. Hope this was good. Have a good night. Bye.